All right, welcome back to the Momentous Mind YouTube channel. It's Felix here, and this video is about the dark night of the soul, or the ego death, as some people may call it. And the reason I want to share this video and the reason I want to talk about this is because for the last 8 months, 8 months, uh, I've been going through this process, and I've been looking for information about the dark night of the soul and about ego death to fully understand, what this process is and what it's asking me to do. And the real answer is nobody knows except for you. And I think the biggest challenge in all of this is uh, trusting, is finding faith. And so I'll kind of give a brief summary of how these things start and what it's like in the middle of it and what it's like in early stages of it, uh, and how to be aware of it. Just from a personal perspective, it's not something that you can find online by, master yogis or anything like that. It's a challenging process because it's so unique. But I think it's important to understand because I feel like a lot of us are either going through that now due to the state of the world or are just about to enter into it. So this is what it's going to look like. So for the last 10 years, I've known exactly what I want to do, where I want to be, what kind of work I want to do, what my passions are, what I really care about, a spiritual guidance. I felt an internal and external North Star in my life, and I never felt the need to stray from that. I just knew that that was the thing. This is it. This is what I want to do. And that thing was healing. I wanted to work in the fields of healing, and I wanted to work with um, especially indigenous healing practices that teach so much about the body, mind, and spirit. And so I dedicated everything to that. And ironically, I entered into that whole process in a kind of dark night of the soul sense. My life had gone to complete and absolute shit. Everything fell apart. My job was terrible. My living situation was rough. I just didn't feel like anything in my environment was providing me with the inspiration or guidance to grow. I felt like a fish that had outgrown its tank, so to speak. So I just left it all behind. I left it all behind, not knowing where I would be next, just knowing where in general I wanted to go. And, I basically I left where I was living and I went down to Peru and I just stuck with it. I basically went to this healing center and I said to them, I said, I want to stay here and I want to work. I want to figure out how I can be here more. I want to learn more. I want to grow in this environment. And that door opened for me. And so I continued to do that. I studied, I dedicated everything. I sacrificed my body, mind, and spirit to continue on that process of learning these indigenous healing practices of Peru and did it quite successfully to the point where I was able to open my own healing center and share these traditions with other people. And all of that was going incredibly well until about, a year and a half, maybe a year ago, when things started to shift internally. Things started getting more challenging and not challenging in the sense of like everyday struggles and everything's always got its challenges. Like you expect certain jobs and endeavors to have challenges, but the challenges started to turn dark in a sense that like there was betrayal, there was a sense of backstabbing, and there were these instances uh, where things got really bad, you know, within my environment, almost to the point where it was unbearable. And that slowly began to build until there was a breaking point when a bunch of different things, negative things happened, really bad things happened at the same time. And it was to the point that there was no way in my mind that I could be in that environment at all and remain sane, so to speak. And so we left it behind. And that was actually after I declared, okay, we're going to change how this looks and we're going to do something new. And my partner and I, we're going to change how this looks. And once we declared that, everything changed, but it didn't change in a good way. It turned very sour very quickly. And so there was the incident. And these incidences are kind of key things to be aware of in the dark night of the soul. Is something happens. There's a catalyst, an event that separates you from your old habitual being. And once that happened, it was like, oh, okay, great. This is, thank you. I can see that there's this thing happening that's cutting me off from these old patterns and old behaviors and old environments, and it's pushing me into something new. And I'm used to that. I'm used to this endeavor of like, okay, let's shed the old and go to the new. Let's shed the old and go to the new. Let's keep doing this. But this, the Dark Night of the Soul, is on a much grander scale, and we left that all behind, and the center and everything that we had built and this successful business, and then became there was the void. And I think the void is the most challenging aspect of the Dark Night of the Soul, in that there's nothing. There's literally nothing. There's no possibility of something new. For me personally, there was no, I still struggle seeing where my North Star is. And so it's nice to be able to share this right in the middle of it. It's a great place. I still know that I love healing, and I still know that I love, working in the spiritual realms and stuff. But how that's supposed to look now is beyond my grasp. And in entering the void, it's like you take everything that you've gained from the last however long of that cycle of what you were doing and you shed it. And that is a very, very hard process. Shedding how you think, shedding how you act, how you present yourself to the world, how you find peace, how you find harmony. And that shedding, it doesn't hold any promises. It doesn't hold the idea that there's something you're working towards. And so the dark night of the soul can feel like walking through a foggy alleyway in the middle of the night without any light. And you can't reach the walls, so you don't know where you're going. And there's a lot of wandering. There's a lot of confusion. And there's a major emotional upheaval. There's a major reflection on, who am I? What does this mean? What have I created? Or what can I create? And I think the biggest challenge of these Dark Night of the Souls, I look back whenever I look back, and some part of me wants to be angry at what I chose before, in that, I feel empty-handed to some degree walking into this new phase. And I give the example of, like, I was living in the jungle and spending so much time there and learning how to survive and, learning these beautiful wisdoms. And I come back into, modern day reality of like Instagram and online marketing and all these things. And a lot of what I've learned in the jungle doesn't feel applicable at all to this realm. And it's confronting. It's confronting a lot of different aspects of me. It's like, I think being a Westerner and embedding myself in an indigenous tradition to learn, I tried to forget the Westerner. I tried to forget the where I came from even before all of that. And I couldn't, you can't separate the two. Um, so the dark night of the soul is the void. It's the place where there is nothing. And it's an illusion because everything is there and you have friends and you have family and you have, food on your table and it's there. But at the same time, friends will feel more distant. Uh, Opportunities feel more distant, more challenging, more ethereal. And I think when that realization hits, there's a hopelessness. There's a guttural, deep emptiness, like almost feeling completely alone in a world surrounded by people. And I think it's a harsh reality because it shows us, or shows me, how often, well, the truth of life is that you go through birth and death alone to some degree. And these death processes are the only doors that we truly we walk alone through. And so these dark night of the soul instances are incredibly powerful gifts of learning how to die. So it's hard because it's terrifying. It's hard because uncovering what is actually happening is super challenging. And being self aware during this process is even harder because oftentimes for myself, I tried to figure out, well, it was that incident that made all of these issues occur, or it's that person or that behavior that made all of these things occur. And when you're alone in the dark night, there's no one to blame. You can't blame anyone. You're here alone. It's all up to you. And the biggest challenge in all of this is that life will continually push you, or life has continually pushed me back into this state of the void or emptiness or this dark place on purpose. Doors don't open, opportunities aren't happening, or there's challenges in workflow. There's a lot of senses of wanting to be alone, a lot of senses of just needing to rest, and they're hard, especially in a material world. Like maybe this would have been easier if I lived in the jungle still, where I could just let it all go and, you know, hang out on a tombo in the middle of nowhere. It's hard when you're embedded back into the realm of modernity where, you have to earn money and you have to pay for groceries and you have to look like you're adding value to life. And all the dark night of the soul is just questioning value. What is value? Who are you in this plastic world? of ideas. And again, like there's no sign or symptom of when the end is of this process. The key to finding the light in this is really an internal thing, and it's slow. It's it requires an immense amount of patience, an immense amount of compassion for yourself, and it requires forgiveness. And I think forgiveness is such a challenge uh, because we know that when people hurt us, it wasn't, even if it wasn't justified or it was justified, it's their fault. It's life's fault that I'm in a bottomless pit. Chogyam Trungpa has an incredible quote that all of us, we realize eventually that we're falling. He says the greatest news, greatest joy in all of this is that there is no bottom. That's hard for the ego and the conscious mind to grasp because our world presents us with so much of finite ideas and A to Z and one, two, three, finding goals and direction is just seems like everybody knows where they're going. Everybody knows exactly what they should be doing. I'm the one who paints the rooms, and I'm the one who builds the houses. I was the healer. Like what? Or none of those things. And is that the freedom in this? Because I don't know. What is death asking us to do? What are we asked to embrace when we face the void? More to come. Thanks for watching.